All right. Call the April meeting of the POA Board meeting into session. I'd like to welcome everybody for attending. Welcome those that are joining us via the live stream. Just a quick overview of the process. Whenever we're talking about any topic, we'll first ask the board if they have any comments or questions, and then we'll, at that point, then after that, we'll open it up to any of the visitors here to the meeting. If you do have something you want to say, please step up to the mic so that everybody that's watching via the live stream and it is being recorded as well can hear you. And then at the very end, we'll have another session. So if any other topics that people want to bring up that have not been brought up to the meeting prior, you'll have that opportunity. So with that, we'll get started. Can I have a motion to approve the March minutes? Motion by Rick, second by Bob. Any discussion? Seeing none, call for a vote. All in favor of the minutes, please raise your hand. All opposed? 6-0. Oh, and just FYI, Steve Schneider was not able to attend today. Next item is the water sewer plan. And we have a lead-in by Mitzi on that one as well.
Just a quick announcement. Clayton's coming up right now. Clayton's about to give you all a presentation on water and sewer plan that they've been working on. But just as an update, the TVPOA is currently working with Loudoun County Mayor Buddy Bradshaw and the Loudoun County Commissioner for Tellico Village, Henry Cullen, to obtain grant money that the state has designated for maintenance items similar to what you're going to see today. We would like to obtain the funding from these ARP funds, which the allocation, this stands for American Rescue Plan. TDEC is another acronym that many of you may have heard of. The Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation has been charged with administering this money, and it deals with the infrastructure component of the state's allocation of these funds. There's potential for TVPOA to receive a significant amount of those funds. There's a total of $4 million that's been designated to Loudoun County. So we are in the process of working with them on this. I will keep everybody updated as we learn more. We're currently in the application process right now, but moving forward, as we get updates, like I said, I'll just let everybody know. But I think that's a great intro into some of the things that Clayton's going to show you today. Is there's potential for us to receive some grant funding to help pay for some of this.
Okay. Excuse me. So, as y'all know, we had a water and sewer system study done. This comes directly from Jacob's draft of the sewer plan, sewer study. We had them stop because we needed to address some I&I issues and some things that are going on. So we had them hold out to where we're not spending any more money. But if you look at this, you have dry.
Can you just define what I&I is so everybody knows what that is?
I&I is inflow and infiltration. That is where the surface water or, the rainwater is penetrated into our system. So if you look at this, this is dry flow. On dry weather flow on the left, wet weather flow on the right. When you look at this, like take Milwaukee for instance, that is pumping 35 gallons per minute during dry weather, just normal day to day. When we have extreme weather and there's a lot of rain coming down during wet weather flow, we're pumping 275 gallons per minute, which is like 7.8 times more during wet weather than dry weather. So,
where does this water get into our systems?
It's getting into our system on the home side of the tank. On the discharge side of the sewer tank is pressurized, so we know we're not getting the inflow there. So it's coming from where people's pipe gutter drains in. They've got something
into what?
Into the 4-inch going into the tank.
Okay.
So it is penetrating into that 4-inch on the home side of the tank somewhere.
So the bottom line is, I guess, too, is kind of with where Pat's going with this is these are a closed system,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So really, we should not be having water infiltration,
Correct.
but somehow we are, as we can see
Yeah.
through these numbers.
And when it goes from, like you just said, 35 DWF
That's 35 gallons per
in
minute.
dry,
Yeah,
35
yeah,
to 275,
yeah.
we're having to pay for that.
Absolutely.
And then there's a county on the other side that we send this sewer to
Yep.
that takes it and then puts it in a processor.
Correct.
Right, okay, so there's a cost involved with this going up, but what we're doing is putting 240 gallons per minute of rainwater.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Next slide, please. So this will show you where all of our lift stations are located, from the Malacqua end all the way to the other end. And that'll show you the dry weather flows on those. Next slide, please. Next slide, okay, all right. So here, this will show you dry flow, peak flow, and outflow, and then how many times increase it is. So dry weather versus wet weather at Malacqua is 7.8 times more during wet flow, just like Toqua is 5.6, Tenassie Coves is 4.5, Tenassie Shores 4.3, the main's 4.8. So extreme amount of I&I problems going on in the village. So next slide, please. This is just a map showing, if you notice the different colors, that is the subdivision and the streets that drain to these lift stations. So that is what's affecting those areas. If you take the top section, the light blue, all those areas, those homes in those areas, all the water line stuff is what's affecting that flow, whether dry flow or wet weather flow. So next slide, please. So when you look at the report, at Malacqua lift station, right now it's pumping approximately 500 gallons a minute. Toqua can pump approximately 570 gallons a minute. So when you read through the report, they were saying, Jacobs Engineering was suggesting that we lower the pump size in Malacqua, upsize the pump size in Toqua, and so do some pump sizes. So if we'll go through a couple of slides here, I'll show you, keep going. So this was the recommendation from Jacobs Engineering with pump size reduction, pump size upgrade, main lift station upgrade, Tenassie Cove upgrade. So this is what you were looking at. It's quite a bit of money, $7 million, $8 million, on doing all this stuff on the high side. But go on, Shannon, please. So Chad and I, we've done a lot of looking at our system. Chad works with our sewer system every day. He's hands-on with it every day. And, we have spent a lot of money, POA has, trying to deal with I&I over the years. And we've never come up with a good find of what it's going to take to fix it. Chad's guys have eliminated, I believe, of the new install tanks because they've come up with some new processes for installing the lines and stuff that I think will eliminate that. But, instead of going out and trying to address this I&I right now and just keep throwing money at it, we need to take our time and find out something that is truly going to fix this problem. So we got with Jacobs Engineering and we said, well, what if we just upsize Toqua lift station pump, make sure we can get all of our sewer to our main lift station and put us a holding tank in to where when Loudon will not let us pump in, because we got to understand when Loudon is experiencing a wet weather event, they restrict what we can pump into them. We can sit there and we can have our pumps turned on. We can pump 1,200 gallons a minute if they would let us pump in, but when they shut us off, we're shut off. So everything could be perfectly good here, have no inflow, but we still can't pump the Loudon until they let us. So if we could put us in a 500,000 gallon holding tank down there at our main lift station, that would give us a place to pump our sewer to during wet weather. It will even give us insurance, you know, when we have a leak between our main lift station and LUB. It will give us insurance and a place to take our sewer when they're having a wet weather event and we're not. So there's so many things that we can do with it. And with that tank, the benefits, it gives us time to find a true fix to I&I. Instead of continuing to spend tens of thousands of dollars and not fix it, we can take the time and make sure we get it right. It gives us safety from our main lift station overflowing. If you know where our main lift station is located, it's down at the end of Sequoia Road, down in the holler down there by the lake. So we certainly don't want it overflowing and going into the lake.
So, I'm sorry, I just want to interject just for a second. So it's fair to say then, during our Loudon experiences the same type of I&I that we do, and that therefore they're pumping more through their system, which doesn't have the capacity then to take us.
You're correct, Marty. They're experiencing I&I, and they can't keep it all pumped out.
Right. So that's
So-
part of the problem too. We can pump,
Absolutely.
but there's nowhere for it to go because the line's already full.
Exactly. Yeah. So with this tank, it would give us, reduction on residential alarms, because when we have a rain event, we have to valve back our main lift stations to keep from overflowing those, because we can't overflow the main lift station. So when you valve back the area lift stations, then the residential alarms start going off. So it's just a chain reaction. So it's less overtime for employees during the rain events. It's less stress on their pumps and their lift stations. So it would be a huge benefit to put this tank in. So that is our recommendation. We upsize the pumps at the Tokel lift station and build a sewer holding tank down in the main lift station area. And we will be, if y'all approve of that, we will be moving forward, working with PSAC, making sure we got correct numbers and sizes and everything on pumps and the tank and location and all those details. And then we would bring it back to the board for approval.
Okay, so before you move to the water, I'm just going to see if there's any questions, comments from the board, and then we'll open it up to the.
Yeah, you were going to go ahead.
No, I'm good. Never mind.
Okay, so you did mention that you're going to take this to Public Services Advisory Committee and have their input, their recommendations would then be made prior to us being asked to make a vote on this, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So there's nothing for us to approve right now?
No.
I got it.
Anybody else have any questions? Any questions? Please use the mic, Harry.
I'm sorry. Just a question about the lift stations. Are they in series, so Malacca goes through Toqua, and then Toqua goes to the main, and, is there how the water flows?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Okay, so they're in series there.
Yes, sir.
Now, how's the water getting in? When you say the I&I, water is coming in, is it coming into the top or the holes in the pipe?
No, it's not coming into the top of the tank. And we're looking at some of those, and there may be some, but we've had situations where we've seen where contractors have piped the downspouts from the gutters into the 4-inch going to the tank.
Okay,
So issues like that we need to address, but we're looking at smoke testing, working with PSAC, we're looking at smoke testing, other ways to find where the water's getting in at.
okay.
So I think it's safe to say we don't know for sure.
Correct.
We just know it's happening.
But the theory is that there's actually rainwater piped in to the sewage system.
And we have seen that, and that's one of the benefits with our increased codes enforcement guys. They are on those jobs, and that's not happening now.
Yeah, I
So-
met him over the years.
So the plan needs to include not only new stuff, but how to fix and get rid of that rainwater going in, right?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I know that we've had the infiltration issue for a number of years. Huh? I don't think the mic's on. Mic's not on? Is it on now? Yep. I know we've had the infiltration issue for a number of years, and I know Jeff went through several redesigns on top of the tank to try and preclude the rainwater getting into these tanks. So we've been fighting this issue for a few years. Now it appears that we've now reached an issue where Loudon, and Tass, I guess it is, which runs that, won't take our sewage when Loudon, City of Loudon is taking, let's say, our preferential position. So I guess it's a question more for Kevin. Have we reviewed the contracts as to find out why they're allowed to kick us to the back seat while the City of Loudon takes preferential treatment and TAS or whoever in fact is operating the sewage system itself has not upgraded to be able to handle all of their clients?
Yeah, it's not so much a matter of contract as probably it is state compliance, and it's something that's worth looking into a bit to ensure that they're meeting the state requirements in terms of what they're accepting and the flow rates and everything involved. So it's an ongoing situation. Unfortunately, there's not a black and white contractual requirement that said they have to accept this much under these circumstances.
So then the backup, no pun intended, but the backup basically falls on our residents to then go out and spend, i.e., a considerable sum of money to address that
Assuming they're
downstream issue.
Yeah, assuming they're meeting their state standards, unfortunately, that's correct.
Thank you.
And Cap, at the same time, having heard this presentation before, this tank, if it comes through PSAC and comes before this board, part of this is also, this allows us to shut down some of those series to work on pumps or pipes or whatever so that it then becomes invisible to the property owner. So instead of having a service disruption during the time that you may be doing serious maintenance on 100 yards of pipe, you've got a holding tank now to put it in, instead of having 2 days of your sewage not leaving your property.
Correct.
I just want to add to that, that when we looked at the contract, the 93 sewage contract with LUB, it's pretty vague language, and it says they'll handle it to the best of their abilities, operational-wise, or something like that. So it was probably not contemplated they would have capacity issues cutting us off at that time. That was 30 years ago.
And that's LUB TAS isn't involved with that.
Comment and question. A few years ago, some friends of ours had a bowl in their backyard, essentially, and they were just pumping water like crazy. They had tried 3 times to get the POA to fix that situation by putting in an extension. They would refill. They got nowhere. I called Karen. I guess she had Sharon's job before she quit. And they were out the next day. I wonder how many situations like that there are currently, and whether we need to do a census, essentially, of people who have this situation going on, and perhaps do a lot of fixing easily.
So Clayton, could you explain to the group the alarm system and how you identify these I&I problems per home?
Yeah, during those rain events, we'll have those alarms start going off when they're getting a lot of water infiltrating into the system. And the lid situation that the gentleman was talking about, we have physically looked at every single lid in Tellico Village. A lot of those were raised, some of them were not, because you can't get it above finished floor elevation, whether you've got a basement or what. You can't get above finished floor elevation because you want your sewer to overflow that tank instead of backing up in the house if something happens. So you got to keep it below finished floor elevation. Bill? We have physically looked at every lid in Tellico Village.
Question, the first slide had $7 or $8 million on it, and this one's got 700,000. Are we talking the whole package combines both of those, or does the installation of the tank allow us to put smaller pumps in at the lift stations?
No, this $700,000 is just a budget number for the 500,000 gallon tank. We will get an estimate, a good number on the tank and on the pumps that would be installed before we move forward.
So you still need the pumps?
Yes, sir, at the Tokwa lift station.
I gotta lower this thing. I see some people in here have been here long enough to know that this is not a new occurrence. This has been going on for years. This is not a new thing. This is not something any of you inherited, but you didn't cause it. It was done by your predecessors. All right? Okay. Now, that being said, we need to do this thing right. You got all new people coming in here now, a lot of them. And you're gonna be trying to build out more houses, even though some places are saying they're not gonna build anymore. And you gotta have a system that absolutely will work. And if you don't take this corporation to come out with this thing and do it the way it's supposed to be done, you're gonna be facing the same problem someday. Maybe your house is gonna be a problem. I know people that have things that come into their houses when they have a lot of rain. They live over in Malacca. I know them personally. It doesn't work. That pump over there's got the honey truck in front of it all the time. You guys are using these honey trucks up and down the road to get things out of here. It has to be done right. You can't keep doing this. I know you've probably heard this once or twice, but you haven't heard it from me. That's number one. Number two is, I don't think the contract that you've got right now is good or bad. That was the best they had back then when they were building this place out. And that hasn't changed. Now, does that mean somebody around here should have raised a hand and say, maybe we need to change this contract? I don't know. Only one person's been here that long. But that contract, you can change contracts. You know that. You've already done a couple of them. Contract could have been changed. I don't want to see this board sitting on that. Whether there's legalese in there or not. You pay a lawyer a lot of money to sit here every week or whatever. It's time to do it. You're going to have to hit people with more money to do this thing. They're going to love you for that. This is going to be a joyous occasion. We ought to have balloons out and cakes. But I'm just telling you, you got to do it right. You can't do this. And I know he's up to his neck, and so's Chad. Not necessarily in the stuff that he's involved in, but he's up to his neck in issues. That's got to be done too. And if he needs help, get him help. But I'm telling you right now, the grades on some of these lots that are being done right now are part of your problem. I don't care who's out there looking at them. Those grades are terrible. I've seen public work people go behind the contractor and regrade a damn lot because the contractor did his duty. We're not holding them to the fire. That's a fact. You want to see them, I'll show them to you. Just give me a call. That's.
Yeah. And we have.
What?
I said, I want you to point that out to Clayton.
Yeah.
Where it's happening, because we do not do work on private property.
And we have an engineering company that does an engineered drainage plan on each lot that is developed in Tellico Village.
And inspections done after the fact.
Yes, and a final approval from the engineering company at the end of construction.
So if you see something that doesn't meet that standard, you need to call a place to meet.
I will. He knows that. But the fact is, I've seen it. And you've known me long enough to know if I saw something, I'll tell you about it. So that's all I got to say. Do it right.
Well, and to your point, that's why he's bringing it up today. That's why we want him to go back to PSAC, because we are seeing, based on these studies, that there does need to be work done, and it's got to be done right, and it's got to be done in an economical manner. And the people, the property owners in Tellico Village, have got to know what numbers are associated with this.
That's a switch.
No, it's been the same way. I've been here for 4 years. You?
Well, the other thing too is, the sewer study's been put on hold because, to give Clayton and his team a chance to see what, if anything, that they can do to slow down this water infiltration.
Yep.
Which will then give us better information on what we need to do as far as upgrades for the sewer system.
Well, what's the responsibility? Where's the pipe that's a responsibility for the POA? Where does it start? That goes into that bubble? That would be a Clayton question.
Yeah, the homeowner is responsible for everything to the tank. When it gets to the tank, then POA is responsible.
Well, most of the water that's coming in there is not in that tank. Most of the water is in the grade where the water backflows down into that tank and causes the tank to overflow.
No. No, that's not correct.
Who said that?
I did. Me.
Have
My
you-
name is Pat White, 304 Skid Circle.
I know where you live. I'm going to tell you, I had to call his guys
I
3 times
understand.
because of that.
And you're going to run across an exception to everything, but I'm
I'm not the
telling you, the
exception.
amount of water that we've got going in here is not coming off of a grade down to a house. It's going into the tank from somewhere. And that's what he's saying that we've got to find out. It could be coming in from a crack. It could be coming in because somebody's run a 4-inch drain line off their eave into the tank, rather than running it out to a proper drain place. We've got to find those things, and that's where the alarms come in. That's where all of this comes in. But there's not water coming down through somebody's backyard running into my tank, or yours, or most everybody. Now, there could be, and
I
you may
didn't
be
say
able to
that.
show me, yes, you did.
No, I didn't. I'll tell you exactly what I said. A lot of the problems are the water coming back down off of a slope that gets into the pipe and goes into the tank.
And that's exactly what I just said, not to argue with you, but how does it get
Never mind.
into the
Never
tank?
mind. I'm
How
not
does it
gonna
get
argue
in the
with you.
tank?
I'm not going to argue with you.
All right, so we understand that. We understand what's going on here. It's still the challenge to figure out how is it getting into the system.
Exactly.
So, and that's where Clayton and his team are working on trying to figure that out. Obviously, it's a problem. We can see that with the large rain events and what's going on. So we've got to give them a chance to see what they can find. But at the same time, put in some other preventative measures.
Yes, sir.
One more question here.
Is that plan going to be laid out so we can see what's actually going on?
Actually, if you're, and this is a good plug for advisory committees here, if you want to know exactly what's going on, look at your telegram, attend the Public Services Advisory Committees, because at those meetings, they'll be discussing this in great detail.
Okay. Let's move on to the water.
So, if you look at this, we have about 100 miles of pipe, whether 2-inch to all the way up to 12-inch pipe, 500,000 gallon water storage tank, a booster pump near 444 and 72, neighborhood booster station at Osage, 4 wholesale water meter stations, those are LUB, 1 water metering station that is TAS. Estimated cost for replacing our existing system is 100 million plus. Next slide. Just a little bit of comparison of where we are today. When Cooper developed this, it was small homes on small lots, wooded lots with no automatic lawn sprinkler systems. Built out was about 80% of plotted lots. Now we got larger homes on small lots, mainly turf grass with sprinkler systems, and we're gonna have 100% build out of all the platted lots in the village. So, you know,
Just to reemphasize that, I mean, I think that everybody knows we have now crossed the 5,000 barrier number of actual homes in Tellico Village. And that is on 6,800 plotted lots.
Yeah.
So just do the math, we are approaching 80% now.
Yeah.
And we're not saying we're at build-out. So that just kind of substantiates what you're trying to say here, and that number is going to be a lot closer to 6,800 and 5,500 total homes.
And it's a whole new, totally different game plan, you know, when you start with mainly no sprinkler system, then you go to sprinkler systems and, you know, turf grasses and nicely manicured yards, a whole lot different stress situation on the water system. This will show the areas that we would be the proposed projects, which is Little Valley, Maple Hill, Chota Tank, up at the water tank, and some work at the existing Task Booster Station. Next. So when you look at water pressure, minimum pressure in the system is 40 PSI. Most states, water pressure minimums is 30 PSI. This says Tennessee requires 30 PSI, but it's really 20 PSI. And, you know, we don't have anything below 40 right now. So when you look at fire flow, we're way past fire flow. It gives you some examples. Max pressure on the lake from elevation 825 would be about 127 PSI. So, you know, at the pipe that's installed pipe with thin wall PVC has a rating of about 200 PSI. When you look, many engineers and states reviewing agencies recommend a maximum pressure of 130 PSI on new pipe. So that shows we're right at the max pressure, but we got 30-plus-year-old pipe. So, you know, we're right there in that area of when are we going to start having a bunch of water pipe to start failing. Next slide.
What do you mean by marginal backfilling? What does that have to do with anything?
So the problem with a lot of our water lines in the Tellico Village is, whether it was the installer with their installation practices, they came in, water and sewer, we have that problem with both. They came in, they just dug a ditch, laid the pipe and backfilled it with what was in there. So, you know, Chad experiences many water and sewer leaks. When he goes out and he has those, he'll take pictures, and you'll have a water line or a sewer line laying on top of big boulders. Or you'll go to dig it up and there's big boulders on top of it, you know, or chunks of, you know, riprap or chunks of asphalt and stuff. So they didn't do a good job. That's really hurt us with their installation practices of the water and sewer. So if they would have come in, bedded that pipe correctly, backfilled it correctly, we wouldn't have the leaks that we're having. So that's a big problem. So when you skip down to the bottom, odd and even lawn irrigation should be promoted by TVPOA immediately. Next, please. This is phase one, just some, you know, upgrades, the cost of what needs to be done, some of it. You know, our goal was to have phase one completed by 2025, and this is just some stuff for prices of pumps and stuff, so moving on. It's $4 million. Phase two of this water improvement system, you can see there, is $9 million. Next. So total cost is about $13 million. Next, please. This talks about some funding by years. Let's skip on through this. Let's go to, skip on. Let's move on. Oh, wait a minute. Okay. So when you look at this, Public Works staff and PSAC, we've had 4 major review sessions that have completed with Public Works staff, PSAC, Jacobs, and in person via and Zoom. And so many meetings. There's been many draft reports on this, generated hundreds of comments, suggestions, and recommendations. challenged every assumption made by Jacobs, reviewed every direction given by Jacobs by Public Works staff, challenged every major and minor recommendation made by Jacobs. The report consists of 33 pages plus an appendix. PSAC has generated 65-plus pages of material and has been reviewed by Public Works staff and sent to Jacobs Engineering. So we have really beat this report to death. We've really looked over it and over it and over it. We've dotted I's, crossed the T's, feel like we've done our due diligence to make sure we know what we need to do. So moving on, please. Next. Go on. Go to the end, Shannon, please. All right, here we go. So we've had this report done. We had the study done. We've worked on it over and over and over, reviewing it with Jacobs, reviewing it with PSAC. PSAC's made a lot of recommendations, had a lot of questions. We went back to Jacobs Engineering and asked the questions over and over. So Chad and I was talking about this probably a month ago, and it's like, listen, we need to make sure we're doing our due diligence. So W.K. Dixon Engineering, which was part of the LUB negotiation with Tellico Village when they done the last water contract negotiation. So they were involved with that. So we were like, let's reach out to them and see if they would be willing to look over the water study and look at our recommendations and see what they think. So we've talked with Adam Byard and Chris Adams with Jacobs. We've met with Ryan Blake with Dixon Engineering. And after looking at those, talking to all those guys, and the first thing that Ryan with Dixon Engineering, the first comment he had for us when we walked in the door was, you need to do something with this irrigation. You know, irrigation is killing you. You need to implement a odd, even irrigation water metering system. And we have reached out to First Utility District, and we've talked to several people. They've done this. And talking with Dixon Engineering and Jacobs Engineering, they say there's the potential of saving millions of dollars by letting the irrigation, by getting the irrigation on an odd and even watering system timing, and because we may not have to install those big 16-inch water lines for the volume that we need. So if we could get a hold of this irrigation watering time and allow LUB to get their tank completed and their booster pump online, then we could collect data for a designated time, and we could enter the correct data into our water model. So we have a water system model, but all this stuff that I showed you is based on current data, with what's going on now, with what Loudon's giving us now, and with the irrigation system the way it is. So we could, I got a proposal from Jacobs Engineering is almost $500,000 to do design and engineering for phase one. But if we spend $500,000 doing design and engineering for phase one, and we're using current data instead of the data that we could collect when this is done, then I think we would have a better understanding of what we need. So what we would like to do is implement a odd and even irrigation timing, let LUB get online with their tank and their booster pump. Then we can collect data, we can enter that into our water model, and then we can see what we really need, instead of just spending money just to get something done and not doing our due diligence.
Well, I see a couple of PSAC members in here, and in particular from reports that we've heard primarily from, there he is, Mr. Hawkey back there. He's not only given us reports on this, but he's given us reports on, excuse me, Jim, yell out the name of that organization. I want to call it a green book, but it's not. Yeah, A&E. Yeah, the A&E group that Jim is and that committee's heading up talks about this constantly. But what is going to happen, and I'm asking the audience here, asking for feedback, what's going to happen when you've got you or your neighbor that's watering 5 days a week that the POA, holy cow, the POA is telling me I've got to water on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. What are you guys going to say? Because what's actually what you're, and he said save us millions of dollars, it's going to save the property owners millions of dollars and not needlessly watering. Did I get that right, Jim? Yes. Okay. That's what I've had pounded in my head for the last few years. But for some reason, we still, and I'm going to see people smile, drive to Ingalls or drive to Food Line, and you'll go past a neighbor's house pouring down rain, hitting the sprinklers, right? So how are we, and again, asking for suggestions to the board, to PSAC, to Public Works, Help Spot, however you can get this information to us, what is your suggestion on convincing people to follow an odd and even watering plan? It's going to save them money. That's, don't need a comment. Just if you're sitting around one morning and you come up with a bright idea, please send it in.
Yeah, because just to build on that, Clayton and his team are working with communications to formulate a communication plan around this and how we would do it. So that will be coming.
Yes.
But happy to take input from anybody that has any other ideas and what they think would be effective. Go ahead. Use the microphone, please.
How about instead of odd even, try to stagger it time-wise?
Well, if you stagger it time-wise, you're just still going to put the stress on the system, because majority of the people now in the village, they water Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So you're still going to put the stress on the system. It'll spread it out some, but it'll be much more effective if we can go odd and even. We have some people watering Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, some Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday.
And this isn't an unusual thing. I mean, there are communities that have this in place already
Yes, sir.
to manage their water utilization. Okay, is there anything else that you're looking for the board from today, or is this more just an information?
Just information, yeah.
Yeah. All right, thanks. Let's move on to the operations report. Winston?
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to begin with everyone's favorite topic, finances. 2021 audit has begun, so Jessica and her team's going to be very busy for the next few weeks answering and filling all the questions that come up during that process. TVPOA had a very good March financially. Net income $507,000 against a budget of about $100,000. Put us $409,000 favorable for the month. So we did good financially there. And the total cash right now is sitting at $13.2 million, with $5.1 million of that in op cash. And to give you some perspective, in 21 at this time, we were at $9.7 million with operations cash at $3.3 million. So in both the reserves going up by almost 4, and the operations cash going up by about $2 million from a year ago. IT department continues to be very busy. IT, I noticed this and I want to bring this up while I was preparing for this report. IT covers a lot more than just fixing our computer screens. They fix our audio visual. They help us with the electronics now that we've got into the age of Zoom and team meetings and so forth and so on. All the technology and the high-speed data that's required to carry those pictures, they're very much involved in helping us set those things up. But some of the accomplishments for the month, Broadway Sound, they worked with them to complete a new sound equipment installation at the Keedy Clubhouse, the annex. Replaced a motorized projection screen here in the yacht club down in the great room. completed a cybersecurity section questionnaire from our insurance renewal program. This is new insurance. They didn't have this kind of insurance when I started here. But as you'll recall from the news in 2021, and probably hear more of it in the future, cybersecurity and that kind of malicious activity on people's information systems and so forth has become more and more of a threat. So we began to carry insurance on that. And of course, IT has to fill out all that technical jargon and data that the insurance company needs. Also installed new pickleball security cameras at the Wellness Center. Got a better program in place there for remote viewing of what's going on there. And last but not least, they have ordered a new called Hyper-V server. This is going to replace a server that basically is carrying all the operational programs that we run on the at the POA operations. I'm not about to go into the different programs that are on that, and if you're really that interested, I'll give you Mitzi's phone number to call. HR is a very busy department. Current open positions: 3 in golf maintenance, 1 in building maintenance, 1 accounting clerk, and the board is also in the business of looking for a new CEO and a CFO. So that is currently our situation in the HR world. ACC and codes, permitted 35 homes last month. Year to date, we've permitted 92 homes. And tomorrow, they have 18 more home permits request on file to be heard. So tomorrow morning, Clayton and his team will be very busy reviewing all that take place. Year to date, at this time, we were at 93 permits. So we're at 92 now. Last year, 93. We're pretty much on track at the same pace we were last year. I've had a lot of people ask me about interest rates and the economy and the volatility and inflation and so forth. I'm sure it will have some sort of an impact on our growth as an entity here in Tellico Village, but to date, we're not seeing a lot of slowdown. Street department's been very busy this time of year. They moved to try to take care of a lot of situations that they can't get to during the winter months. They have also moved the woodworkers kiln down in the Public Works yard. They needed the space for operations. They have poured a pad and moved the kiln to another location that's a little bit more out of the way of the ongoing operations down in Public Works. Been working on various drainage issues that have developed over the growth of the village. They have continued brush pickup. Next month, I plan on giving you a tonnage report or a volume report of the amount of debris that we carted off in 2021. The numbers, I haven't had a chance to verify and work with them a great deal yet, but it's a pretty significant amount of debris that we carry off. This past month, March, a lot of wind and rain, as you all recall. That's created the need to have many trees cleaned up out of our common property and roadways. And the department is currently working on getting bids for the 2022 paving projects that we have in front of us this season. The Public Works Ground Department landscaping has been working furiously to get prep and prune all the planted garden areas around our facilities, getting them ready for mulch. The intensive work on getting the mowers ready, remove the grass from the islands in the Wellness Center, so those will no longer have to be mowed. They've replaced that with rock, or I should say stone. Started mulching in many of the areas I mentioned earlier, working on the Welcome Center landscape. Beth is very dictatorial on having that place looking nice. Village Square landscape, they have started cleaning that up, trying to make it a little bit better for the tenants in the commercial area. In the building area, they have finished the yacht club kitchen, and they are working on the interior renovations. They've had to replace 5 windows here in the yacht club that lost their seal and started to fog up. HVAC inspection at the Village Square, as Beth is in the process of renewing the leases for the tenants. One of the elements of concern is the HVAC in those units, and she's developing a plan for that. That's all I want to cover in that area. Utilities. Clayton covered quite a bit of this, but some stats that you may find interesting. In the month of March, they have set 33 tanks, 86 for the year. Water meters installed are 45. Year-to-date's 108. Each one of these that are installed represents new construction and new home coming into the village. Last month, they had 32 what I call minor sewer leaks, minor lines, 86 year-to-date. On the main line, they've had 2 breaks, one at Maple Hill and one at the main lift station. Water leaks, the minor water leaks, they've had 15 year-to-date, it's been 39. And the main water line breaks, 2, Nowata and Maple Hill. In marketing and communications, the stats continue to look pretty strong in that area. Discovery requests for the month was 107. The year-to-date requests have been 235. Completed discovery packages, 67 for the month of March. For the year, 119. Welcome Center traffic, 893 for the month. 2,053 for the year. Total marketing specific traffic was 372 for the month, whereas it was 710 for the entire year. The leads, or 506 were created in the month of March. Total creation of marketing leads was 1,376. And the one that I am most encouraged about, POA lots are 30 sold for the month. In year-to-date, we've sold 93 lots. And I just once again want to reemphasize to the board that those are 93 lots that we were sitting on, we owned, we were getting no revenue from. They were not creating assessments whatsoever. And so that's going to be 93 additional lots now that are paying a monthly assessment.
How many are left, Winston?
Somewhere around 170, Beth, what's give or take. And for people that have been attending these meetings for a long, long time, you can remember us talking about 800 lots, 700 lots that were sitting here generating no revenue. And the marketing program has now got that down to less than 200, which I thought would never happen, but that's very good very good news, very good financially for the POA.
Hey, Beth, of those 170, are those all buildable, do you think? Just asking.
Technically, Sue, everything's buildable.
Okay.
No, I would say of the, well, I don't know. We've sold some that I didn't think would be tough. I would say out of the ones we have left, just like I said before, there's probably about 10, 15 that would be extremely hard, and someone would have to put quite a bit of money in the foundation to do it. But could it be done? Absolutely.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, a couple other items that take place in Beth World. The POA website is being redone. It's about 99% complete, so I imagine by this time next month, I'll be able to report that it's up and running. And the TV business directory is at the printers and will be available to villagers in May. In the world of golf, Mr. Sykes and Company. They are officially in the throes of what we refer to as the golf season. It has been a cool, but yet the golfers nevertheless have been out playing hard. We are at 14,833 rounds year-to-date. Exactly the same place, just different composition of players, but exactly the same number was the amount of rounds we had through March of last year. So not an increase in golf yet, but I would put a caveat on that. As cool and as rainy as it has been for the month of March, I would say if we'd had more of an average March experience, the number probably would be greater. But nonetheless, we're right in line with where we were last year, and last year was a phenomenal year. Some events that are coming up, some large events coming up. The Tennessee Senior and Super Senior Four-Ball Championships will be held at Tokwa the week of May 9th. So if you're playing golf and you're not in those tournaments, you may want to consider Kahiti or Tanasi. And they're in the process of, they've got a golf transition going on with one of our pros leaving, and they are swapping around, and they're excited about, you know, new blood, new facilities, and switching up responsibilities and roles. And so Chris has done an excellent job of breathing new life into the golf world and creating a team environment there. Rec, not to be outdone by golf. Simon has once again surprised me with creating more new classes called a Rock Out Workout with Heather. How do you pronounce that, Simon? Micah? Micah? Are you Heather? Oh, okay. Anyway, it sounds like an exciting new class. This clinic is currently set to run through May 27th. Caitlin Blankenship is now the primary trainer for TOC injury assessment at the Wellness Center. For the property owners that are unaware of this, this is an outstanding program that has been created by the rec world. You can go and take your sore elbow or your sore knee or your hips pains or whatever and meet with this individual, and she can give you some preliminary assessment and get you on the road to recovery. And I would encourage our property owners to see Simon and Company about that if that's something that interests them. Jaden Macon has passed his national exam to become a certified Parks and Rec professional, better known as CPRP. The rec management team is all nationally certified now. Simon has also got his certification. Larissa does also. And Simon also just recently represented Telco Village at the Parks and Recreation Directors Forum in Nashville. As you recall, last year I reported that he was president of this group, and he is now serving on their board, and he occasionally goes there to get included and give his input and to bring back new ideas for recreation, health, wellness, parks, and that kind of business ideas back to our world. Camp Tellico, week 1, 20 out of 25 spots have been filled. Week 2, 15 of the 25 spots have been filled. So you're being warned, if you have grandkids coming in during Camp Tellico, you need to hurry and call the rec world and get scheduled. Pavilion reservations to date are 62 for the year. So this facility is very much in use and very well participated. The Rusty Rackets Tennis Clinic had 63. This was a clinic set up to help new tennis players and tennis players that have not played in a while work on their skills and get back into the game. So as you can see, there's numerous other programs going on, but the rec world is very, very busy in taking care and giving our property owners things to do. And my last report is in the food service world. AWE reports that business is picking up. It's still having supply issues to a degree. The wedding season has begun here at the Yacht Club, and they have started some focus on specials at the restaurant and they have found that to be very successful, very well received. They have started breakfast programs, and Mitzi, I'm going to get you to explain a little bit about that. I know I didn't tell you I was going to do this, but we talked about it at a board roundtable last Friday. Pat and some other board members expressed an interest in breakfast, so could you maybe give a word as to what you and AWE have started and created?
What they did is at Toqua and Tenassie, they started their hours earlier at the request, of course, some residents, but the majority have been golfers, and the golfers want, because it's summer hours, summertime, they're getting out, it's warm, they want breakfast, so we're doing this on a trial basis right now, just things like muffins, maybe eggs, you know, not a huge full-blown gravy and biscuit breakfast, but some type of food in there for them. And then just day before yesterday at Kahidi, we started the same thing. We opened at 8:30. So Angie and her team are there to provide something as well for, you know, anyone who's out there golfing that early. So, have you been, Bob, yesterday or today? Oh, okay.
So what time does it start at Toqua? 8:30?
Well, and not to pick on Bob, but I haven't either, and I've played at 8 o'clock in the morning. But the point is, and Bob and I and all of us have discussed this, this is a change, and we're a very routinized population, and we do the same thing every morning. There are a lot of people that want our restaurants to provide breakfast, and unless we go participate in this, the same thing is going to happen that the last time we tried. When it doesn't show up, the subsidy goes up because you're paying for the breakfast that is not being eaten, and then it goes away. And then we complain that we don't have breakfast, and we're caught in this continual loop. So get all your friends and neighbors, take them all out to breakfast, generate some revenue, and I guarantee you, if you do, they will increase the menu items, because typically people like Bob and I will go in and say, we don't want sausage, we want ham. Then you have to put ham on the menu, and you know. So the challenge is make use of this so we can keep using this.
This flyer is tiny. I wish I could show you all, but it's the early golf menu. It was in the telegram. It's going to be a golf ball with green around it, and you'll notice it, but it's 8:30 to 10:30. 8 a.m. to 10:30. I'm sorry, I was wrong, Rick. It's even earlier at Toqua. But it's sandwiches, fresh fruit, muffins, coffee, and a fruit bar. So that's the kind of things they're starting out with.
Thank you, Mitzi. And Pat, I'm going to call on you every month to preach that same sermon, because you're very correct. We are stuck in our habits, and unless somebody beats us over the head, we don't change our ways. And then, voila, next thing you know, you can't get a walk-on tea time in the afternoons because everybody's playing golf then. So we can be trained, can't we, Pat?
Well, what you should ask me is, what did I have for breakfast last Wednesday, and where did I have it?
I'm afraid to.
Yeah.
What did you have?
I haven't been there, just like Bob. I haven't been there. So now I'm guilty. I've got to sneak down to Tenassie and have breakfast, and then so I can report back to Winston, and then tell my neighbors what a great breakfast I had, so that they will go in turn. There you go.
Thank you, Mitzi. The yacht club, I just want to explain, we're having renovations going on. It drags out, but one of the problems we're having is the delivery of the new bar for the yacht club. We're hoping, we've got our fingers crossed, that it'd be sometime late May, but I hate to be pessimistic, but sometimes I don't feel like we're going to make that, but we still keep trying to put it together. Please pardon our disruption, but we can't make the bar here. We have to have it brought in, and as soon as it gets here, we'll install it. Some numbers for the food service world. At Toqua, March sales was $117,000. Year-to-date was $267,000. The Tenassie March sales, $95,000. Year-to-date, $233,000. So for those that keenly watch the numbers, you'll see now that Toqua has started to exceed Tenassie. Yacht Club March totals, sales of $87,000, year-to-date $244,000, and That would compare yacht club numbers of 68,000 in March of last year and 189,000 in '21. So we're $50,000 ahead of where we were last year in the yacht club. Kahidi total March revenue was 27,000. That was 4,000 above budget. And year-to-date, they're at 61,000, which is 9,000 better than budget. So food service is cooking right along. And that's the entire report.
All right, thanks, Winston. Let's move on to ACC Public Works. Clayton?
So I wanted to share some of our goals for ACC for 2022.
Before you get started, and again, we got 300 and something houses being built here, had that last year, probably next year. There are a lot of people here that won't understand what this goal is and Red Book means.
Yeah. Our red book is like, we had the blue book, that is for residential homes. The red book is for commercial areas.
Right.
So that book has not been revised in several years. We have a lot of things we need to look at, building exterior maintenance, parking lot maintenance, landscape maintenance, and others issues that the ACC committee will be coming up with. Our goal is to revise that by the end of the year. It's time. It's time as time changes, so that's one of the things we'll be doing this year. Moving on. I have presented this to the board about supporting us, creating some stronger landscaping rules. It's time. Before, we just kind of said, hey, you got to plant a tree, or you got to have some ground cover and stuff like that. Getting with the board and Kevin, and we'll be working with ACC, that we'll start doing some landscaping permitting guidelines and material uses that they can and cannot use. We need to tighten up on that. It's something new that we haven't done in the village, but there comes times that you just have to have new rules to help from having problems. So that is something else we'll be doing in ACC. This is the really big push that we have going on right now. Pat made the comment about so many people building. If you know about the numbers in Tellico Village, last year we permitted 378 homes. The record high for any previous year in Tellico Village was 2004, and that was 224 homes. So we just destroyed that number. We're on the same pace right now, pretty close, within a few permits as what we was last year, so we're gonna have another extraordinary year, I believe. So we've had a lot of surveyors come in, a lot of different surveyors, a lot of new surveyors, so we're getting a little bit of everything on our surveys, and there's really, looking at surveys takes up the majority of our time reviewing homes, packages and stuff. So working with Kevin, and a surveying crew, a surveyor that, with Jimmy Ogle, that laid out the village. He is retired and he is helping us with this. We have got a meeting set up for April 26th. It's a mandatory meeting. We will require all the surveyors to come, and we will not accept any other type of surveys but the guidelines. And the survey, we will send them, we will be providing them the template for all of the survey stuff that they need, and all the symbols and everything, so we can get everybody that's submitting a survey to Tellico Village, everyone will be the same. So everybody will be working off the same page, and we can see what's going on. So that's a huge step. That's like we did with moving toward engineering drainage plans, something that needed to happen, and this was just the next step that needs to happen in permitting in Tellico Village. So that's our goal for 22 is, with ACC is to do these things. I think it will make permitting smoother. It'll help Tellico Village. It'll help us have a better product of a home, and commercial areas will be upgraded. So that's where we're at in ACC. Any questions?
That one behind you, go ahead.
Should accept be accept?
Typo. Yeah. So,
That autocorrect gets you
every time. So, we will correct that.
Okay, thanks, Clayton. Next, we have Jessica Johnson in Finance.
All right, so as of right now, or as of March, we have 6,754 assessed lots. 161 of those are suspended, and we believe around 52 are collectible. So our head count right now is at 113. We have 9 open positions. Golf rounds, they are better than budget right now, and so is rec memberships. Okay, Shannon. Our revenue is better than budget, and our expenses are also better than budget at this point. I think you will see that variance decrease over the next few months as maintenance projects and equipment, some of those things are completed. So here is our revenue broken down by division. And you can see that most of our revenue lines for each division are doing really well. The commercial line is a budgeting issue that we budgeted a little bit too much money for the revenue coming in for the commercial building as we have open spots. And expenses, you can see we are better than budget, but like I said, especially in maintenance and those types of areas, you will see that variance decrease over the next few months. So general operations, that includes the POA office, it includes the Welcome Center, it includes ACC, and it also includes the medical building. And so our revenues are very strong. And some of the variances under expenses, salaries is going to be due to open positions. Maintenance is just things that need to happen and will be happening in the next few months. Golf operations, like I said earlier, your member rounds, your guest rounds, they all look really, really good, and that is showing in your revenue numbers. The salaries under expenses, we do have some positions to fill there, and as we get into this warmer weather, you know, you'll see some of the variances decrease over time for all of your other expenses. Recreation, you know, they are also doing extremely well with their memberships, both household memberships and individual. They're both better than budget. And on the expense side of things, there's quite a few projects that will be completed over the next few months. We have painting to do, repaving pickleball courts, and there's several projects in the rec world that Simon will be completing, you know, in the coming months.
Jessica,
Yep.
what's in other revenue in rec?
It is, they have a little bit of merchandise sales, not much, but yeah. And Public Works, this is going to include, of course, your water and sewer and your tank installations, and then the maintenance department, your streets and maintenance of building. That's where you're going to see a lot of your expenses from those type things in this department. The water revenue is a little bit better than budget. The sewer revenue is below budget at this point. Tank installations, you can see, are higher than budget, and that's due to new home permits that you've heard everybody talk about here lately. The cost of water and cost of sewer we're pretty close to budget on that. And then the rest of the variances under expenses, you see the maintenance number of 222,000. In the next few months, you're going to see that decrease. This is public safety. It includes the fire department here in Loudon, and it also includes the Kahidi first responders. They're right on target, right on budget for this year. Food service, the revenue that you're going to see here is all from Kahidi Grill. So all of that is better than budget. Kahidi Grill is doing really good this year. And then also, it's the same thing with all of the other divisions. The variances on expenses, you will see decrease over the next few months as equipment is purchased, as maintenance is completed. Dock and RV, we have split out the dock revenue so you can actually see the dock revenue that has always been the POA docks, the docks that we owned, and then the docks we purchased with the CCI acquisition. And the RV storage, you can see it's really close to budget. It's a little under right now. And then maintenance is going to be mostly, maintenance that is scheduled for the docks to be completed each year. You will see that number decrease as they get those projects completed. And commercial. So that's the building at Village Square, and that's our lease revenue that we receive from our tenants. We do have, is it 1 or 2 open spots, Beth? 3, okay, 3. We do have 3 open spots, and that's where you're seeing the variance at in the revenue. And then some of the maintenance that we have planned, that Beth has planned to do to that building, that will happen coming soon. So you'll see that variance decrease.
Were those spots open before?
They were
They've been
open
open,
before.
so we just thought we might have them filled by now?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I remember when we put the budget, together, we were supposed to go into the year with 3 open spots, and it didn't happen.
Right, okay. I was just wondering why the discrepancy, so.
Yeah. Here is the rounds report. Well, like I said, all of the rounds are doing better than budget. You can just flip through these if you want to, Shannon. It's just more rounds reports and the final one.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
But right here, total lease cart rounds and total daily fee cart rounds, are those 2 labels reversed? Because this says to me, and I might be looking at it wrong, total daily fee cart rounds. So you go pick up a cart, you pay for it, and you use it, that's 1,400. Total lease cart rounds says that I had 580. And then I have total private cart rounds. That's telling me that I have a private cart. I went in my garage, I drove it on the golf course, I played golf. That's the highest one, and that should be the lowest one. So it looks to me like the labels are incorrectly.
Okay, I can look into that.
Yeah.
I will.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was just curious.
Here is your rec memberships. So we're sitting at 1,136 household memberships and 652 individual memberships at the end of March. And you can skip this slide too. So capital funding, let me get that stuff out. This is for Kahidi Food Service. It's the shades, 3 motorized shades that will be added to the current shades that are already there. This will fully enclose the patio and allow more seating It is within Winston's level of authority, so it's just an informational piece that we will be purchasing these shades.
I'm just going to add real quick, Jessica, just
Okay.
as an FYI, back in October, we got these quotes, or late September, and the quote actually came in at like $20,400. That just shows you now that we're ready to install, how much the price has increased. Just thought I'd give you that tidbit there.
The next 3 slides are for utility vehicles, and we're going to purchase some utility vehicles for the golf courses for Tennessee, Toqua, and Kahiti. They are all within the budgeted amount and all within Winston's level of authority to approve. And we're just replacing, some of the utility vehicles that we've had for quite some time. As you see on this request for Tennessee, the one we're replacing is from 2007 and has over 40,000 hours on it. So
4,000 hours.
4,000, sorry,
Okay,
did I
good
say,
deal.
I said 40, didn't I?
40, yeah.
40,000,
Yeah,
Pat.
that made me cross my eyes. I thought maybe.
And you can skip this one. It's utility vehicles for Toqua. And then this one is for Kahiti. And the next 2 slides are for greens fans. So they're coming in at $10,837. It was a sole source bid. But this is within Winston's level of approval, so he has approved for the golf guys to go ahead and purchase their greens fans. You can go ahead. And so this is for the yacht club, the restaurant level. The renovation is just to complete it. New carpet, wallpaper, art, chairs, and paint. We do want to pull this from the repair and maintenance reserve, so that will require a board approval.
Move to approve.
I have a move and a second to approve the restaurant level renovation for $89,844. Any discussion?
From the R&M reserve.
From the R&M reserve, thank you. Cap?
Just looking up there, and I'm wondering, why are bids 2 and 3 empty? I thought under our purchasing procedure, it was required that we have 3 bids.
We do have several bids for this project. We haven't put them up, we did not put them up on the screen because we're having to get, different vendors are going to be supplying the quotes for the wallpaper, and then we have to go to different vendors for the chairs. And so it's a long list of vendors that will be doing different pieces of this renovation.
So we haven't made a decision to go away from the purchasing procedure.
No.
No.
No. Okay, call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? 6-0.
And this is also for the yacht club. It's the event chairs that will be used on the 5th floor and for the ballroom. The requested amount is $45,000, or the budget amount, I'm sorry, is $45,000. We're requesting $13,790 of that. This is an informational item. Winston has approved the purchase of these chairs.
Are these the chairs you're talking about?
Yeah, these chairs are bye-bye.
Well, yeah. Well, my question is, what do we do with these chairs?
Beth has a plan. She can answer it if you want to.
We are going to list them for sale through like Facebook Marketplace for probably a few dollars a piece and see if we can sell them to another restaurant or a small event center, a church, something like that. Yeah, you don't have to sit at church as long as what Rick said, as you all are right now today.
Okay, this is to tar and chip Kahiti Dock Road, and so this road is in, it has a lot of potholes, it's in very bad condition, and so we are working with Wilson Paving, and they are gonna tar and chip this road, and Winston has approved this, their requested amount was $31,000. And then this is for the Water and Sewer Department. It's line stoppers. And the budget amount that you see up there is $400,000. We're requesting $54,500 of that. There will be more requests that come that go against this sewer budget amount. The source of funds, we want to pull that from the Water and Sewer Reserve. And so I will need approval from the board for the project, and I will also need approval for the funding from Water and Sewer Reserve.
So do I have a motion?
So moved.
John, do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved in second to acquire line stoppers for the wastewater collection line, source of funds being Water and Sewer Reserve. Any comments, questions from the board?
They stop water.
They do. Dirty water.
They stop wastewater.
Wastewater.
But what these are for, Winston mentioned in his Public Works report that we had leaks and stuff like that. But at the main lift station, which y'all know sits down in the hole, you have a line coming north and a line coming south. And if there's a leak or any kind of trouble down there in that main lift station area, you can't stop the sewer. So we had a leak down there a couple weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. It took us 30 minutes to dig it up, but it took 4.5 hours of roto-rooter pumping sewer out of there before we could ever get in there and fix it, because we didn't have a valve to cut it off to keep everything from backflowing down on there. Something that should have been years ago, should have been put in there when the lines were put in. So that's what these are. They're control valves where we can stop water and sewer from backflowing and stuff from different directions. One will be from north, one will be from south, and one will be on the main discharge line going to LUB. So.
That's a better answer than you expected, huh, Bob?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll call for a vote. All in favor of acquiring these water sewer line stoppers? 6-0.
The next, you heard Winston speak about this when he was reporting on the IT department. They are purchasing a new server. The budget amount for this was $13,000, and we have requested $13,700. Winston has approved this for purchase. Here is the capital approved year-to-date. So we're about halfway through. We've requested $2.3 million against a budget of $4.2.
Okay. Any other questions for Jessica from the board? Harry, go ahead.
Going all the way back to the docks, you had $54,000 you were down as far as revenue goes. That's about 1/3. Why is that?
Oh, you shouldn't ask that question. They all gonna laugh at me because this is what we discussed this morning, and one of the things we're working on is how to solve this. But there's a number of people in Tellico Village that leave for the winter. They go somewhere else, they got a boat. They either put it in dry storage or leave it in the lake or whatever they do with it. And when they leave, they still pay their insurance still pay a car note if they got one, their mortgage payments, their insurance payments, their light, gas, water, electricity, whatever bills come in. But we've got a significant number of people that don't pay for the slip until they come back. Right now, we've had up to 22 through the month of March. We then carried over 5 more through the month of April. And what we're tasking Winston and the staff to do is to come up with some recommendations, the best fit recommendations that the Marine Advisory Committee has come up with, what to do. And we don't want to sound like a bad guy, and you come back from Florida and your boat is floated off down towards Chattanooga somewhere. We can't do that. But at the same time, those bills are being paid, except that one is not being paid. And we've got to come up with an answer, because there's 200 people sitting out there in the weeds that want to put their boat in that spot, and they're more than willing to pay. And well, we've got to get the message across. You've got to pay by the 15th of January to reserve that spot, or these sequence of events are about to happen, and that's what we're coming up with.
Yeah.
I've got an issue, and I spoke with Jessica about this before the meeting, that I didn't want this to be intended as a slam on her, because it certainly isn't. We've had a situation in the finance group where we had Parker retired, and we promoted Kevin, and we lost our control, and Kevin, shortly after he took the position of CFO, he went on retirement. We've been sitting here now for several months without any CFO or controller. If I was in a position where this was a public stock, and I saw the entire finance organization being stripped of upper management, I'd be selling that stock. Because I'd start to wonder what in God's name was going on, that they don't have any financial management in place. We're coming up in a few more months, we're going to be starting our budget process. The budget process in this village is very, very complex, as most of you know. It requires quite a deal of effort on the part of the management, department managers, as well as the finance organization. I heard Winston mention, you talked about a CEO amnesty. I have not, and I'm not privy to that. I'm surprised that Steve is not jumping up and down, because he understands where I'm coming from. The CFO or CEO should be joined at the hip. Basically, you want any proposal to affect this organization to be reviewed through finance eyes. And here we are, without any. Thank you. Do you want me to repeat all of that? No. I didn't think you would. But I'd just like to know where we stand, if we are actively looking for a CFO, whether we've had any applications, or whether we've just made the decision we're going to wait until 6 months from now or whenever that we've hired a CEO, and then bring a CFO who's going to be running in place like crazy to try and get caught up with the kind of operation and the way that we have with all of the details that are included in these finances.
Cap, I think, matter of fact, most of the board shares that concern, but it was a unanimous decision of the board, since we're about to hire a new CEO, that we would let that CEO be involved in the decision to hire a CFO. So
I would not want to question this.
Well, and by the way, Steve was in total agreement with that. He actually suggested.
And actually, Cap, you are too, because you said the CEO and the CFO are like this.
Yeah, they got to be in
And I
lockstep.
agree.
And-
However, you basically have been flying blind, so to speak, in the sense, now, Winston's got a lot of financial experience, so I think he can handle that probably much better than any other CEO that didn't have the breadth of knowledge that Winston has. But I still think that, you're going to be having somebody drop in here, let's say 3 months from now, you hire a CEO, then you start trying to hire a CFO. You got 3-4 months after that for the whole review process. 6 months from now, you're going to drop somebody in. That's in October. Meanwhile, you've gone through your whole budget process without any real management oversight, financial management oversight. So I'm just saying, I understand and I see where you might want to have the CEO hire his own CFO.
Well, before this meeting is over, I'm going to review the status of the CEO search. We certainly are planning to bring this new CEO in before the budget cycle starts. And, oh, by the way, Winston will still be around. And Winston is basically fulfilling two roles right now, the CEO and the CFO. You know, we've done a lot of staffing work in the finance department because, frankly, it had gotten below critical mass. So I understand your concerns. The board is well aware of them, and the board has taken action on them.
All right, well,
And if
this
it'll
is,
help you out any, Cap, I'm not selling my stock.
this is the first public meeting, because I do watch you guys.
We-
Even when
we
I'm not here,
typically
I
don't
watch it
discuss
later,
personnel
that any
issues in
discussion
public.
has occurred on this particular
Yeah,
subject.
Cap,
So-
and you were on the board, you're well aware that the board does not discuss particular personnel issues in public.
You could at least say, we're looking for one, or we're not looking one for this reason.
Well, let me
So-
just chime in there quickly, Cap. I understand your concern, but I do want you to recall, I grew up here in as the accounting manager, the finance director, and so I'm very familiar with the finances and all the different nuances. I have complete faith in Jessica, and also for the last 5 years, Mitzi has been under intensive, shall I say, financial training when it comes to the statements and what they mean and how they work. And she knows better than anyone the different nuances and dynamics that take place. We reached a point where we had to do something, and Jessica has done an excellent job of getting things corrected, fixed, adjusted. Just last Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, I asked her about the condition of the statements, and she said they're not 100%. Well, I went through them and could find very little errors and problems that she probably is aware of. So I feel very comfortable, and I want to reassure the board, I feel very confident and comfortable of our financial position right now. I feel very comfortable with the management because we talk 2 and 3 times a week about different things. If I were to get run over by the milk truck tonight, Mitzi is very aware and very familiar and very capable of handling the entire situation until this CEO and CFO, whoever they may be, come on board. And if that's as late as November, so be it. I think the decision is important enough that the right one is made versus just getting a body in the office. So anyway, I understand your concern, Cap, from the outside looking in. I'm sure it does look worrisome, but I feel very good about where we are now compared to 90 days ago, for sure.
And believe that every point that you brought up has been discussed ad infinitum among the board, and we felt that this was the best way forward, so that's why we're proceeding down this path. We've engaged more help from FAC as well, as they're helping out with a reserve study and wherever they can help. So we're leveraging expertise and consultation where we can and where it's needed. So we think that this is the right approach. While we're on capital, last month, the board approved going forward with the pickleball courts, and that was to be funded through Timeless Teleco. Since then, I was involved, actually before then, I was involved in several of the meetings where we were talking about this pickleplex, which were the pickleball courts, including the roof structure. And the reason I'm bringing this up now is because in those meetings, it was stated by the contractor that, you guys understand that by doing the courts first, you're going to incur incremental costs when you want to put a roof structure over it. Those costs are roughly, they projected around $80,000. And, with the way prices have been increasing here, it's likely that it would be more than that. So what I asked Winston and his team to do is to look at, should we consider moving forward the roof structure for the Pickleplex as well? I say move forward because that is in the long-range plan for 2025. So when that plan was put together, I believe that was 2015, 2018, it was projected then that it would become a need to have the Pickleplex in 2025. Well, as you know, we've been growing tremendously since then, and the need is now. And I can vouch for that because I've been out there too, playing pickleball, and it's really not that far off from having more than 20 people waiting to get on the court at any one time. So with that as kind of the backdrop, I asked Winston and his team to look at, okay, should we consider moving forward the roof structure? So,
Well, let's take 1 second here, and let's go back to this want versus need. And so I know you're a pickleball player, I'm not, Rick is not. John, you play pickleball? Yeah, okay, John's a Bob's not. So I don't understand, maybe you're being inconvenienced. I'm talking about explaining this to the entire population. I saw my good friend Rich Caracas walk in here. You've got something to do with pickleball. I used to be the pickleball club president. He and I got together and put this projection spreadsheet together a couple of years ago because Rich and the pickleball club was very interested in understanding, was that 2025 number correct? Now, this was 3 years ago, right, Rich, that we did this? Something like that. So we put the numbers together, and indeed, it was early in 2025, just as we'd projected it to be. But since that 3 years, we've put 300 houses in here. The population's gone berserk. A year. So, and you're talking 2 people per. The number of boat slips is waiting list is 200. Golf rounds are up. Recreation membership is now back up where it was pre-COVID and exceeding that. And you run those numbers again, that 2025 number is now. So it's not just we want, it is those numbers are now. And the numbers specified, and I agree with, you got 10 people waiting to play pickleball, but it's like golf, play in the afternoon. Well, we don't want to play in the afternoon. But what we found is the numbers are actually now. So now I give it back to you. Thanks for letting me interrupt.
certainly. Winston?
Yeah, in researching this, Marty, sorry about that. In researching this, what is absolutely correct that Marty said, we found that if we do the court and then come back 2-3 years later and do the roof, we'll undo some of the stuff that we've done. In other words, we'll probably damage the court, we'll probably have to move or replace some infrastructure, et cetera. Given our inflation factor, you look at the whole thing, given our position where we are financially right now, it just made sense to consider bringing this whole plan forward. And Simon has gotten quotes from Clearspan, the company that they originally envisioned doing the roof, and it came in at $435,000. I've asked Simon, because it was discovered that did not include lights, I've asked him to try to get me a number on what LED lighting of that facility would be, so we could play it early in the morning during the winter months and way up into the night during all times of the year with it being lighted. And also, Simon, did you ever never got a hard number back?
No, sir.
So, and Marty, you were going to check with the pickleball world to see if they had intended to have lights in it, and that was the thought process. So my proposal would be to the board would be to consider this project now. I've got a quote for $435,000 for the roof. I would ask that the board consider another $25,000. I don't think it'll be that much, given that it was $15,720. I think inflation will kick that up to about $20,000. But I would ask the board to approve a project for $460,000, and let's just do it all now. Courts, which you all approved last month, and then this roof structure to be built first, and then the courts placed underneath it, so it's an additional $460,000.
This includes Clayton stubbing out the electrical, the water, the drain, the sewer, because I understand there's future enhancements to this project if we so desire. And then again, like what you're saying, instead of tearing up the front or the back or the side, it's already there and we know where it is. So that's included in the cost as well?
Yes.
Okay.
And Simon and the Rec World and all those that use the facilities out there, we'll probably be getting together in the near future to plan a outdoor restroom facility somewhere in that, but that's not part of this plan. But contemplation will be given to that so as we can put stub outs or piping or infrastructure in the ground while we've got this thing all torn up. And I think the structure, and believe it or not, I was watching TV. I think it was on, I forgot what day it was, and pickleball tournament was on my TV. I found that a little incredulous myself. It's that popular now, but it was a very, very high stakes covered by ESPN. So it's obviously a very beneficial thing, and I think Beth could attest to the fact if we had this structure, along with what we already have up there with the Wellness Center and complex that's on top of the hill, I think it would only enhance our marketing and our desirability as a community and as a whole.
Well, and again, let's go back here to Bill, Walt, and Rich. You guys have been involved in the fundraising for this. You almost got to the point last year that you were ready to pull the plug. You went out and got us, again, a follow-up bid on how much it was going to cost. What happened?
Price went up, right?
Yeah, you can, one of you come to the microphone, please. This is a phenomenal story of what every one of us in life are dealing with now.
We raised the money to do what we thought we needed for the courts. And heck, if you look at the Wellness Center, when you put the courts in there originally, that 8 courts cost $135,000. We were under the impression it was, and had people telling us this is what it was going to cost, $138,000. Albeit, I don't think we bid it at the right time of the year. I like to see things go out in the first quarter. Bid in August. Out of 7 bids, we had 3, and by the time they were ready to hit the table, we had 1. Everyone else dropped out. Supply, shortage, work, not enough workers. People were having trouble with their fencing. It just went to blazes. So it came in last year almost double what we had. And rather than going back to the community and the people that we were trying to raise money from, we sat there and said, all right, let's hunker down, let's continue raising money and see if we can bid this out the first part of the year. And that's what we did this year. And it came in at $216. And we're sitting there knowing what's going on with petroleum, supply chain, and everything else, and inflation. And we're going, don't like it. Let's get the money. We raised the money. Let's pull the trigger. And that's where we are right now. And the same thing with the roof. I mean, the roof was $208,000 a year and a half ago. So things are just crazy.
Right.
And we can sit and wait and go, oh, they're going to come down. But I think during COVID and what have you, just my opinion, when everything went to blazes, people realized what they could get for their products. And they may take it down 10%, but they're not going down a lot further. So that's where we're at right now.
Good, thank you. And just as a reminder to everybody, we did exactly the same thing with the wave attenuator outside the yacht club. Marine Advisory Committee, Public Services advised if we had the money and it was budgeted, buy it, even though they couldn't install it for almost a year. It was stored at the storage facility at Public Works. And that thing is now $100,000 more than it was then. We did the same thing earlier this year with Public Works inspector trucks. Gave them the authorization to buy 5 as soon as they came onto the lot, instead of waiting because the price of those vehicles were going up so fast. So this falls into the same category. As Marty was saying, the time being now, if we wait another 6 months, 8 months, or through the next budget process, we could end up being another 100, 200,000 over for exactly the same product.
So this is not in this year's budget, but where would you take the funds from?
Out of our amenity reserve,
And you have enough money in the amenity reserve to cover this?
yes.
Okay.
Can I have a motion?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go forward with the clear span roof structure for the pickleball courts at a cost of $460,000,
Including lighting.
which includes lighting, coming from the amenity reserve. Any discussion? Any more discussion? Do I say it?
Forgive me here. Fred and I are really are confused. The 465, is that all in, including is that just the roof, or?
Yeah, it's the total project. So if you add the 220 for the courts, the total becomes 670.
Yes.
670.
Okay, 670.
This is
So-
incremental to what was approved
So-
last month. But this
okay.
is the first amount was all covered through timeless telecom.
Right.
So it did
Okay.
not come out of the POA budget.
Right, okay, so this is incremental? All
Yes.
right, okay, understood. Understood, Fred? Okay.
You and Fred going to...
What, Fred's too shy to actually get up to the microphone? I didn't know that was true.
He's just their spokesman.
They did rock, paper, scissors to see who'd speak.
Well,
The comment I'd like to make is, if I was a benevolent dictator and what have you, and it was just my project, this is the proper way to do it. As far as if you're going to cover a site like this, you put the cover on and you get the courts in underneath. And that way you don't have to worry about, and you've already addressed this, you don't have to worry about damaging and what have you. And if you folks proceed, I think Beth will be happy for marketing and what have you. Pickleball is going to be unbelievably pleased with what's going down, that it's been upped. And I'm really pleased that Timeless Teleco could get the courts in, and that you might do this. Thank you.
We have pictures of what it's going to look like
Oh,
for
okay.
the audience, provided we can get them up on the screen. There it is.
there you go. That's what it's going to look like.
Yeah. Go back to the one that shows that view right there. So this is what it'll look like.
Yep.
And the walking path that's in behind here will be moved as part of the project,
That's correct.
so.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to call for, what? Oh, there's another comment? Cap?
Now that you put this picture up, I'm looking at it, and I don't see any sides. Is there going to then be a subsequent amendment to this? Because it's so hot out here in the summer that we need to put sides on it and air condition it? Or what is the long-term plan
It's open
out
air.
here to heat it?
It's an
open-air pavilion, basically.
It's open air.
It's all in there, even though the
It's
pictures
open
don't
air.
show it?
It's open air, so that where you see the roof structure that's 8 feet high, it's all open below that. So you don't air condition it, no HVAC.
So there will not be any roofs? I mean, it's not roofs, excuse me, any sides?
Correct.
So there will not be any, so you
Just
won't,
fencing.
so 5 months from now, I won't hear, oh, now we got to put sides on it and air condition it and then heat it for the winter.
Well,
We
you
would
you
not-
might hear it, but who's going to?
It's not.
I
this-
don't know who's going to approve
This
it.
type of structure, no, that's not an option with this type of structure.
Yes.
No intention for
Rich,
that.
you got something to say? Can you walk
You
up
got,
to
you
the
got to.
It's actually the preferred style this provides here. It'll actually be about 10 degrees cooler, at least 10 degrees cooler in the summer. And of course, it'll allow for all weather and all season play. It's really a better design than an enclosed facility.
Okay. Let's call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed? Pass 6-0. Another topic we have before we get to the actual reserve study is Steve Schneider is not able to make it to the meeting today, but he asked that I propose that we move, since we have $5 million in operating cash, to move $3 million of that into the reserve fund. So,
Financially speaking, we're sitting here with a little over $5 million in op cash. I've got a total of $8-9 million in reserves right now. The only question we can do that. The only question I have for the board is in what funds do you want to allocate that money to? My suggestion would be you put $1 million in amenity reserves and then $2 million in repair and maintenance R&M reserve for the $3 million. And this is not like it's locked away for 6 years and you can't touch it. If the board decides that they need that money for whatever, it's at the board's discretion to use.
Well, my question for you, Winston, is based on what you know coming down the pike, maintenance and capital, do you have enough money without us going back into the reserve?
Yes. I'm still left with $2 million in op cash, I've still got plenty to, pay the light bill and pay the employees. We're still good there. And for the foreseeable future, everything looks, pretty strong. Now, the caveat would be if we go into a recession like we did in '07.
Hopefully that'll never happen.
Hopefully we're in a much better state now with the fact that a lot of our lots have homes on it now, which prevents a collection problem. But right now, where I stand, I've got no problem with that request. I just want to clarify that the board not only needs to specify they want to move the money, but they need to designate where they want it to go.
Marty, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to make a motion to move $3 million from operating cash into, the R&M reserve, $2 million, and $1 million into the amenity reserve. Yeah.
do I have a second? Bob? So it's been moved in second to move $3 million from operating cash into reserves, $2 million which would go into maintenance reserve, and $1 million into the amenity reserve. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0 passed. Okay, with that, let's move into the reserve study. Actually, it says, that would be
Actually, it
Pat.
falls to me, because
Yes.
Steve and I are serving on this, but the professionals involved in this are Brad and John, and I've asked them to come from the Finance Advisory Committee and update us on this. So if you two gentlemen would come up to this microphone. Thanks, John, for showing up.
Sure. So I was asked to give a quick update on where we're at with the reserve study. I had a few comments, I think, at the last meeting. Quick history. I know we're late into the meeting here. Everybody wants to go, but so basically the FAC, Finance Advisory Committee, has been recommending we engage with a professional organization to perform this reserve study. in compliance with national standards and the FASB rule that actually requires this in some states. About half the states in the country require that associations perform this reserve study. Tennessee is not one of those states that requires it, but it's a good practice nonetheless. Last year, about this time, the board approved going out to bid. We solicited bids from the 5 largest national firms that do this kind of work and chose a company called Finance Advisors International, FAI. And they are the oldest in the industry, been doing this for 40 years. And they've done work for the village before. Their bid came in the most comprehensive and actually the least cost, so it worked out great for all of us. Once we got these bids and chose the preferred vendor, it was getting late in the year. I think it was September-ish, and the decision was made to postpone engaging until this year, and we could budget for the expense. So we've got the firm engaged. They will be here May 9th to start their on-site work. They're going to spend the entire week, their team, walking the village, inspecting every facility, and meeting with various POA personnel, probably a lot of time with Clayton, as he knows the facilities better than anybody. So basically, for those that maybe aren't familiar with it in the audience, what's a reserve study really is. We hear about all these studies we're doing all the time, but this is really a major repair and replacement analysis of an association's assets. So right now, the POA budget or balance sheet has $32 million of assets on the books. But that does not include any of the assets that were put in place by Cooper and turned over to the POA. And that includes, 110 miles of roads, the 100 miles of water and sewer system, the yacht club, the Choder Rec Center, Tenasseee Clubhouse, just, to name a few that are not on our books as assets. So when we first engaged in this process early last year with Kevin, he thought we could do this ourselves and just print off our asset list and apply some rules of thumb and come up with a number. And once we started digging into, what we don't know, it became apparent we could not do this ourselves. We don't have the industry knowledge to know what it's going to cost in 15 years to replace an HVAC system on the yacht club. This company, that's all they do. They've got this massive database of information that they've accumulated over 40 years. So they've got those numbers and can do a much better job and much more professional than we could possibly do in-house. So what they're going to look at, obviously, all of our facilities, wellness center, rec center, pools, tennis and pickleball courts, our offices, welcome center, medical building, you name it, all the golf courses. What's not in scope is the water and sewer, obviously, because we've already studied that to death. But what they are going to do is take the output of those studies to build our ultimate financial projections. So they're going to just, some of the numbers you saw today from the water and sewer are going to be inputs into this overall 30-year financial plan that they're going to put out that pretty much lays out where our reserves need to be for the next 30 years to cover major repairs and replacements. So they're going to look, for some of the buildings, they will actually break it down into major components, HVAC systems, electrical systems, flooring, roofing, elevators. They're not going to get into furniture and decorations and things of that nature. It's the major components that make up a building like this. And then ultimately, they'll load all these assets of ours into their proprietary software that then will generate this 30-year plan. And The good thing about this company is we will have access to their software going forward for minimal licensing fee of like $250 a year that we can then utilize to, put new assets in there as we acquire them, take old assets out when we dispose of them, and keep this a living document that we don't need to pay them to update. So that was a huge benefit of selecting this company, is they basically give us their software. So basically, that's the game plan. May 9th, it'll probably take them, I would guess, 30, 45 days to get their plan back to us. We'll then review it. Obviously, the FAC will be reviewing it, and the board will review the plan, and then we will use that plan to, work into the budget and the 10-year plan of how we get to, assuming we're not at the reserves that they would recommend, how do we get there? You don't get there overnight. You probably don't get there in 1 year, but we'll need to come up with a plan of how we fund that reserve to what they think is the appropriate level. So that's the plan right now.
So, John, and we heard from long-range planning within the last couple of months, does this also, because one of those goals is, if you're looking at expanding something, whether it's a community center or an amphitheater or build another golf course or a new swimming pool or just a parking lot, these are things that we can put into that plan, and instead of now just saying, no, Brad's giving me a no.
That's not what it's intended.
But you mentioned a new asset. You could put that in.
Well,
So,
but the new asset would be for its eventual replacement,
Yeah.
or if,
not for its initial purchase.
Right. No, this does not cover the expansion or purchase of any new assets. It's not going to be in the financial plan.
okay,
This is strictly repair and replacement of assets.
okay.
So when you do traditional reserve accounting, that is for the assets that you have in hand.
Right.
And it's the maintenance and the replacement of those assets. So as an example, the pickleballplex would not have come from reserves. That's not procedurally the proper way to do it under reserve accounting standards. We should have said, okay, we contribute that asset, and then over time, we figure out over the next 30 years, what does maintenance and repair on the pickleballplex look like? And it would then come. So part of this is the real formalization of the reserve process, which we're in a much better stead than we ever have been in terms of having reserves, but we need to put formal processes around those reserves so that we are taking care of the assets we have, and then when we ponder new amenities, how do you fund those? And that can be raising money from a foundation, it can be paying for it out of operating expenses to ultimately then contribute to it, or it could be taking on debt. And any of those three methodologies then would contribute an asset to the organization, which at that point would get amended to the software.
Right.
Such that it would then be reserved for future repairs and maintenance.
Got it, thanks, very clear.
So I got any questions?
All right. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Brad.
Rick is up for an update on our CEO search.
Right.
Okay, as I reported last month, we had gone through phase one. We had generated about 51 candidates, of which we thought there might be 3 to 4 possibles. Further research indicated to us that we didn't have a broad enough qualified candidate pool. So as a result of that, we interviewed a number of executive search firms in March, and an executive search firm was engaged and contract negotiations were completed. The search firm, Qualigence International, has extensive experience in hiring senior management positions for property owner associations. The search services agreement was finalized and executed on April 1st. On April 6th, the board and members of the senior POA management staff participated in an intake session to set expectations and to identify key competencies for the new CEO. In the last week, Qualigen has interviewed the political and TRDA leadership in the area. It was done because one of the core competencies identified by the board was the ability to forge positive relationships with governmental entities affecting Tellico Village. Resumes from the Phase 1 search have been shared with Qualigen. They're going to include them in their screening process. My guess is very few, almost none of them will come through it. The search firm is in the process of developing a candidate profile and interview guide for the board. It's expected that this will be completed in the next week or two. The candidate identification process is ongoing and will continue over the next several weeks. And our expectation is that we will make the hire of the new CEO by early in the third quarter, so we can provide a smooth transition, since Winston tells us every day how many days he's got left. So I'll be happy to answer questions.
Okay, any questions for Rick? Seeing none, we'll move on. Does anybody on the board have an other that they would like to bring up at this time? Anything from, all right, Harry?
My name's Harry Rucker. You mentioned that we passed the 5,000 house building mark, and we had 6,800, or I think Jessica said 6,770 houses or lots, excuse me, that are being assessed. Is the 1,700 lot difference there, is that all owned by either builders or individuals?
The remaining lots?
You're right.
Oh, yes.
So you have 170 lots left. So there's really very, very little influence.
Well,
the board
there's
can
also
have.
the 216 possible lots that we picked up in the CCI deal.
So
Well, they're
there's
not in the 6,800 though.
Excuse me?
Well, but if you're looking at the total number that we could develop, that's,
Yes, that would be incremental to the 6,800 though.
So that would add on 200 and some to that.
216 is
So
what we
7,000.
estimate.
Okay. So really, the reason I'm asking is very little influence that the board has over building in Tellico Village, since you only own 10% of the lots that are left.
That's right.
90% are owned by builders or individuals. Okay,
Right.
That's
That's
what I wanted to
correct.
find out.
That's right. You're exactly right. Okay.
Norris wanted to know, when you guys moved the money into the reserve fund, did you all consider paying down any debt? Instead of moving it?
That's correct. So as Rick said, that was not part of the consideration of moving money from operating cash to reserve. That doesn't mean that we can't decide it coming up if it seems like
Yeah,
a
I
good
think
idea
what
to
we
do
is-
it.
yeah,
But
we look at our reserve funds, we look at our outstanding debt, which is pretty low right now, with the exception of the CCI deal, and then we make a decision as to what we're going to do with it. Outside of the CCI deal, we have almost no debt. You know, we have a little bit on the Welcome Center, a little bit on the, you know, the
medical
the
building.
medical center, and oh, by the way, that's paying us back more than the debt costs. So there's not much debt out there to repay right now.
Something to keep our eye on, though.
Yeah, it is something that we always, because Rick is really debt averse.
We all are, yeah. Okay, was that it? Whoop, whoop, whoop. Okay, go ahead, John.
There was, I had a kind of question, request of, as we all know, we have advisory committees of residents for every amenity, with one exception, and other non-amenities like communications, finance, you name it. But the one exception is our largest subsidy of food service. There's no resident participation in that subsidy. So right now, you know, this year it's budgeted to be, I don't know, $850,000 of subsidy, yet the residents don't have any input into how it's run, the hours, the menu. Apparently, AWE makes most of those decisions. I'm not sure if there's any board input, you know, when they decided to start closing certain days of the week.
Do
but I just think it would be well appreciated in the community, given that it was the third largest response on the survey of the one thing they would change. And only number one obviously was the expansion of the village, and number two was the traffic. So first two things you cannot do anything about. So this would be the number one thing you can actually do something about. And short of getting a new vendor, I would think we involve the residents, and maybe we could improve the perception, if nothing else.
First off, I want to correct you on some things. Their subsidy is practically nil in food service. The numbers you're referring to is the maintenance of the facilities. Okay? If I had no restaurants whatsoever at Toqua, Tenasseee, the Yacht Club, I'd still have to spend that money on these buildings per the 60,000A. So I have a little bit at Kahidi, but as Mitzi's communicated to me quite frequently, the Kahidi neighborhood supports that restaurant, and the service they provide relative to the subsidy that's incurred is very minimal. Secondly, the food service contract that are in place are on a for-profit basis. In other words, there's not a subsidy line at Tenasseee, Yacht Club, or Toqua for 22. So there is no subsidy there. And what I encourage people to do, Andy runs that via a contract with TVPOA. He runs it as a business, and being for profit more than ever before, every dollar he makes is more money that he gets to put in his AWE coffers. So if there is something that you see or your friends see that would help food service, I encourage you to talk to Andy or Skylar or the manager on site at that facility, because Andy wants to know about it quite frequently. Now, what I have noticed when people talk to me and I look into it is when they complain about AWE, it's because they don't get their way. And what I'm saying there is they want a $20 meal for $10. And he can't do that and stay in business. So the subsidy there is no subsidy at those three restaurants. We have a small one at Kahidi, and those costs via the agreement with TRDA, we'd have to maintain these buildings anyway. And one of the departments, just because I know the property owners know very little about this, except maybe Cap, is Department 14, and that is just strictly this building alone. There is no food service associated with that. And that is something I did way back 100 years ago when those boards that I was dealing with then were complaining about the cost of food and the food subsidy and so forth and so forth. And I took a deep dive into the food service world. This building that we're meeting in right here is not what you're going to see a restaurant chain or restaurant conglomerate build. They're not going to build something 3 stories. They're not going to build something with a meeting room on the bottom, a basement floor, and a meeting room on the top floor. So I divvied that yacht club up in Department 13 and 14, 13 capturing the food service, and we still have to maintain a lot of that building area. But this floor and the very bottom floor and the elevators and whatnot, those are just costs that you'll always have to eat whether you have food service or not. Now, in 2044, when that capital lease expires and none of us are around, the boards might decide to just demolish this building, and you'll no longer have that obligation with TRDA.
Well, I guess the subsidy maybe is the wrong word, because we're still paying the $850,000 in overhead that for just the restaurant portions of the buildings. And every other restaurant in the world has to pay their own overhead except AWE. So it really is a subsidy, whether you call it a subsidy or not. Every restaurant in Lenore City has to pay all their own overhead for their building. AWE doesn't, and you say, do everything we can to put more money in AWE's coffers. How does that benefit the POA? Because the more money we give them doesn't help our financials, except for Kahidi.
Well, had you seen the finances 10, 15 years ago, you would change your opinion of that. A restaurant in a country club environment, a restaurant in a planned urban development is, for the lack of a better term, forcing a square peg in a round hole. It's a service, it's an amenity, it's what expected in this community, and it's what we deliver. And the board has the choice to do away with that, and
Well,
I don't want to be sitting here when they do.
So I'll just go back to my original request. We should have an advisory committee for that amenity. We have it for every other amenity in the village, except for food service.
There's actually been an advisory committee in the past. It failed so badly, it was eliminated by a past board because it just became a major league bitch session.
I don't know, I guess history doesn't have to repeat itself, you know. Okay.
So that is something that we are discussing, we have been discussing, John. So it's not something that we've heard for the first time today, as you probably know. So we're looking at what is the best thing to do, right? I mean, depending upon who you ask, you know, you could argue that food service is pretty good in the village right now because a lot of times you go into those restaurants and they're jam full. I'm not trying to defend AWE, so don't get me wrong here, but at the same time, we need to keep things in perspective. And, but yeah, we hear you, and there are a few others that have provided those same sentiments. So we, the board, are not deaf to that. We're just trying to figure out what is the best way to go forward. Anything else? Bill?
I just wanted to make one quick comment on behalf of Timeless Teleco Foundation. We enjoyed so much working with the pickleball club, all the management staff here at Teleco Village, everybody who was involved in the Pickleplex, and of course all the residents who contributed so much money to this. And for Rick and Simon to come up with the idea of a foundation that can give us things like the Pickleplex, a great idea from the beginning, and this is going to pay off in the years moving forward as residents bring us other ideas to build other things, bring their ideas to us, things that we can help fund with donor money that the POA budget isn't ready to do at a particular point in time. So many thanks to everybody who's been involved in this, and we look forward, Timeless Teleco, to doing a lot more projects here in Teleco Village.
Thanks. With that, we're going to adjourn. Thanks.